This is the truth behind the television show House of Lies. Lies, I tell you. That's what they tell me. Nothing but lies. House of Lies. Love that show. House of Lies. Marty Kaan. Now, this is not to be confused with House of Cards. There are two entirely different shows. One's a comedy, one's a drama, one's with the White House, one's with the penthouse. This was a show based on the book House of Lies by Marty Kaan, who's a former consultant of a group management firm. And he made a book called House of Lies. And the book was so good that Matthew Carnahan decided he wanted to create a show around it. And he wanted to find the right person to play this this character, Marty Kaan. And the guy who he could find to play it was no other than Don Cheadle. He thought he had the perfect person to play this character, Marty Kaan. And the show had Christian Bale, Ben Schwartz, and Josh Lawson. And this show was really, really important because on a lot of different elements taking place here. Meaning that the moving parts of doing a show like this is to show the world of the consulting firm from how it's really going down and what really happens behind the scenes, how these deals get done. And there's some ruthless people there. And one of the motto of House of Lies is that they steal your watch and then tell you the time. And that's what they do for a living. The show focuses on both people, um, lives and talking about his manipulative ways of Marty Kaan and how it is working, being a black employee or a person of color, being one of the best consultants they have in at the firm, and how his drive and his relationships and his life, his child, his familyhood, how it all weighs him down, and it changes his whole narrative about everything, and how it makes him, not dealing with issues he's had with his ex-wife and things like that. All of these things come into play, and it drives him to be successful at work while balancing everything else. And you see, like, man, this guy looks like he has it all. And you see that, man, he's a broken man. And through the whole series, you see he's broken, and people keep trying to fix him and get him to be a little bit normal. And through the entire series, you see a growth of him trusting more when he didn't really trust. Now, there's been some some doozies episodes where he could have easily broken trust with a lot of people, and he did at some point. And then they end up working it back together and realizing like they're more than that. They're just a family. He had a transgender son. Somebody, a storyline that most people wouldn't even touch. at the time. They were able to do it on the show and give some levity and light to it and bring that to the forefront, which was quite interesting. And Christian Bale, who almost torpedoed the show's direction by getting pregnant, not once but twice. During the entire show, the series, she was pregnant, like back to back. Everybody's like, is she doing this on purpose to get out of the show? So they end up writing her kid, one of them, into the role. In the other season, she was just, well, she was just big. Now, there's been a lot of different like features and cast members that came along the way. They had guest appearances, like the Matt Damon episode was hilarious. But when she was Jeannie Vanderhooven, she was his partner, Christian Bell. And eventually you could see a romance brewing between the two. And he's always had complicated relationships. But Marty wanted more. He wanted respect. And that's something that his bosses, they liked the money he was bringing in, but didn't quite like the respect. And they were going to find a way to like toss him out and get rid of the baby altogether at once. And they didn't want to destroy what they've already built with the union between the two. You know, they had a great bond, and you don't want to destroy a great bond that you have in place. So naturally, you're looking at a cast member that was strong. You had your like love connection thing there between Marty and Jeannie. But Clyde Oberhall and Doug Guggenheim, Doug the Gug, that was a great pairing. Those two comedy, they were like the goofballs of the firm. Clive always wanted to be powerful, bigger than Marty, wanted his approval, and wanted to be the guy that's like second chair to Marty. And you could tell Clive's the kiss up guy at the job, and he's just hilarious because Doug is good with numbers. He's the quant, if you would say, of the whole team. But he felt like no one respects him, and because he's like really off. He went to Harvard, and the rest of them didn't. Then he got married to Jenny Slate, and he sends her a drunken text. Then she ends up like going off the show. She cleaned out his bank accounts and leaves him and all this stuff. So it was a entirely different type of show at that time. Very fun. A lot of things was happening. Don Cheadle won a Emmy for his performance as Marty Kaan, which he proudly wore around his neck after season one. But here's where the show went into problems. The show casting, when they got everybody to come in and they got someone to play his wife and all these different things, the casting was so excellent that once they made this cast and they was doing the show, Showtime loved it, but it just wasn't, I think, catching on. Most of the African Americans weren't really watching the show. This show was watched by mostly Caucasians more than it was blacks. And blacks in business were watching it and like, hey, okay, but they had a very high Caucasian number watching House of Lies. Though it had a fair number of African Americans in there. You had T.I. on the show a couple of times. You had a lot of different characters on there, but it just wasn't really catching on and connecting with the African American public. And a lot of them said they didn't know about it. Like they heard about it, but then they got confused with House of Cards. And I guess there was some confusion once House of Cards and Netflix came, and people thought House of Cards was House of Lies, and but it seems to always worked better for House of Cards and not for House of Lies, which had a core audience for 3 seasons. The ratings were pretty much nice and very well received. Then after like the third season, the fourth season, it started to like go in another direction that was more, you know, more relationship and building and more into Marty's character and psyche. So once you start going down that train, things just took a whole different direction. It's like, oh man, now we're going through Marty's mind, how he feels, and just got more emotional, and it got it like away from the office. When a lot of people love the office, and all the stuff that was going on at the firm. And I think once the direction turned a little bit more personal and they made kind of a show out of it and started featuring more characters and they got away from the office, the core audience that they got, it kind of got away from them. They kind of like, yeah, the show's changed. It's not the same. So it's not what they remember. It's not what they loved. It's not what they signed up for. It's not the House of Cards that, they want it to be. I think they won for art direction for episode 2 for like 3 of them. They won like 3 Emmys. Well, House of Lies is like one of those series that you can go back and watch and get entertained. It's witty, it's smart, and it has heart. I just felt the show took a direction, and you don't want to have everything about The Office all the time. You could dull out people. But I felt that when you spend too much time outside of The Office, you really lose your core audience. When you really do a dramatic change and focus more on the drama, where it's not really funny anymore, it's just sad all the time. And it's like, okay, you gotta, some comedy gotta come in, back into the show or some life. So if you've never seen House of Lies, you've missed out. And I mean truly missed out. This is a classic television series. It's hilarious. It's chaotic. It's a bunch of nudity. It's it's the life of a consultant firm, a global, dealing with business conglomerates. You get to see business deals done. You get to see how people could go to the last nail, last minute to get things closed and get all. Well, you get to see, especially if you're a person of color, you get to see how they really treat you in this business world. It's really cutthroat sometimes. So definitely don't let me know what you think. Um, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go ahead and take a break and come back and give you guys some more videos. But if you've seen House of Cards and you've seen House of Lies, there are two great shows, but they are entirely different. Okay, so don't get those confused. And definitely don't forget to subscribe to the page, hit the notification bell, and select all so you can get your notifications. Don't leave it up to them to give it to you. And on another note, definitely, and I do mean definitely, donate to the page. Cash App is Carcino, and you can click the link in the description box and hit up the Streamlab. We do appreciate that. So, on that note, I'm out.